Back on SportsLine, and we will switch gears to talk about the college kids now. Tennessee 2-0 after that huge win on the road in overtime at Pitt on Saturday. Cedric Tillman, the game-winning touchdown in overtime from Hendon Hooker, who's your SEC Offensive Player of the Week. Byron Young had a couple of sacks. He's your SEC Defensive Player of the Week. In Tennessee, which started the season outside of the top 25, I thought people weren't giving them enough credit. I thought what they returned based off of how they finished last year, you should have been looking at Tennessee as a top 25 team. They dominate in week one against an outmanned Ball State team. They sneak into the rankings. They go on the road. They beat Pitt, who was number 17, and now Tennessee's up to 15th in the country. They're going to be a huge favorite this weekend against Akron. But as I warned earlier in the show, this is a sandwich game. There was a lot of focus on that game last week at Pitt. A ranked versus ranked non-conference matchup. Pitt won in Knoxville last year. There was a little bit of payback on the line. Similar situation next week. You got Florida coming to town. It's going to be a ranked on ranked game. It's going to be the SEC opener. It's the rivalry. It's all of that stuff. Florida has dominated this series over a couple of decades now. There's going to be a lot of focus on that. Can Josh Heupel and this team continue to improve this week and stay focused on the task at hand is going to be a huge question mark, and we'll see how they handle it. They should win no matter what they do this week against Akron on Saturday night. But part of being a mature team is understanding what is in front of you right now and coming and taking care of business. The starters should be out of the game in the second half on Saturday night. If they do that, you can rest up and get ready and hopefully have a healthy unit when you take on Florida. But that requires being focused this week, knowing what you're supposed to do, and getting better throughout the week, taking care of business Saturday night, and then turning the page and getting ready for the Gators. Here was Josh Heupel meeting the media as his team got down to work to start the week and get set for Akron on Saturday night.
Please raise your hand. Coach?
I hope everybody's doing great. Again, excited about the way our kids competed this Saturday, and proud of our ability to find a way to win a game that was against a good opponent, and obviously we didn't play our best in some areas, but found a way to come out on the right side of it. So extremely excited about that. Moving on, kids were in the building this morning and had a good morning with them. Excited about getting back in our home stadium. Celebrating, I guess, maybe the 50th anniversary of the first night game at Neyland this week, too. So I'm excited and looking forward to the week. I'll open it up.
Questions? Adam, then Nick.
You said you didn't play your best. How do you communicate that, especially on offense, to the guys that you did win a game, you did do some things in clutch situations, but didn't play your best?
Well, and this game's never going to be perfect either. And I said that after the game, said it to the players, and I do all the time. There's things that we can control that we can be better, and offensively the way we started, really in all three phases of the football game, the way we started. The third quarter, just offensively and special teams, being more dialed in, and that's coaches and players together. And I am proud of the way that we finished and competed. The second quarter, has been something that we've placed an emphasis on just in our offseason and training camp. It was good to see us, respond and play the second quarter the way that we're capable of, and come out on the right side of the scoreboard during that quarter. So there's a lot of positives, but there's things that, and it's always going to be true throughout the course of the season, that, man, we got to continue to find a way to get better, and the simple things that we control in all three phases of the game, how do we continue to get better to control those in a better way?
You said that you felt good after the opener, despite not having a sack on the stat sheet. But then this past weekend, the numbers speak for themselves. Were they doing the same things and just having more results, or was there something that you saw in terms of a difference in them?
A lot of the same things that we didn't have the same type of results. I do think they impacted the game in week one, too. But, the havoc numbers from the defensive line and our pressures, from the second and third levels showed up. There's some things in coverage that we can tighten down and be better and more disciplined in that are going to force the quarterback to potentially hold on to the ball a little bit longer. In particular, in the first quarter, I thought that showed up. But the relentlessness, the energy, the strain from our defensive guys that were, applying pressure to the quarterback was really strong all 4 quarters. I think that trumped out and won late in the football game too. Was pleased with a lot of what we did up front.
Josh, 2 things. I'll ask them separate. First, going back and looking at the tape, what was your breakdown on that punt block? Is it the punt release? Was it a protection? What did you see there?
Combination of coaches and players together being on the same page and being better in that situation.
And then it looked like you had 3 guys really take a majority of the snaps and at wide receiver in the game. Was that something that it just played out that way, or did you plan it because maybe some other guys have some work to do there?
No, just the way the game played out.
Dan, and then we'll go to the back.
Coach, after the game on Saturday, you said that you didn't think when you first got here the group would have been ready to win a game like Saturday's. What's been the biggest differences between then and now, and in your opinion, what have been the most important changes?
We weren't ready. We weren't ready in the beginning of last year either. I thought we grew throughout the course of the season. We're different now than we were at the end of last year too. It's the accountability that we have inside of our program, doing the right things, and that's in every area of your life. It shows up in how you play. The mental toughness, physical toughness, and the ability to strain when things aren't going your way. Being relentless and playing together in all phases of the game. It's just the growth of individuals and the growth of our units together. All of that adds up to us having the ability to fight and win a game in overtime like we played.
Coach, what has made Brew McCoy so effective so quickly?
He cares. I think that's the number one thing. He's in the building from the moment that he stepped, here inside of Knoxville. He's been in our building. He's constantly working to get better and understanding, who he is a player, what we do offensively, how to play efficiently with our communication system, how to get lined up and attack defenses. All of that, I think, is a big part of it. And so the competitiveness, the competitive drive that he has is a big part of why he spends that extra time in here. And when you see him on the football field and the way that he competes, he's highly competitive, he's strong, and obviously you can see Hendon trusts him too, and we trust him as a staff.
Coach, back here, the running backs haven't caught a lot of passes this year. Is that something that's by design? If not, how do you get those guys involved in the passing game a little more?
Yeah, you guys see us, who we are offensively. We have an identity, right? But then as we face different defenses and how we want to attack them, different players get involved in the pass game, and those guys do a good job in protection. They do a good job running the football. We've got to be better in ball security. Those guys catching the football out of the backfield is something that they're capable of doing. And as we go out throughout the course of the season, you'll see that show up.
So last week, tons of upsets in college football. How do you keep this team locked in and not looking beyond Akron this week?
Yeah, the challenge every week is really us, and we talk about that every week. Talked about it this morning too. Our players got to buy into it. I didn't think, a couple of the practices last week were our best. It showed up in the way that we played at times during the course of the football game. Our preparation's got to be consistent. Your process of how you approach and get to game day is what takes you to game day to play your best football. And if you ever deviate from that plan and change it, you're setting yourself up for failure. We talked about that in the team meeting today, and college football has always been this way, but certainly this past weekend and the first weekend you see it, right? Like everybody's got 85 and they got good coaching staff, so you better prepare and be ready to compete in a really good way. Your competitiveness cannot deviate from week to week.
Patrick and Rob.
Coach, a couple things with Mincy.